Hey guys, it's Techno Freak, and welcome to episode 17 of my custom story creation tutorial for Amnesia Rebirth. And today we're going to be talking about a few things actually. So I kind of just wanted to wrap up the episode on ghouls. I was looking back at some of the things I still felt like we might have been able, we should have covered on this episode, but I didn't feel like it was enough for one episode, so I'm kind of going to jam-pack wildcards into this episode as well. So today we'll be talking about wildcards. We'll be talking about how to run the threaten player command, and also how to run the retreat command for the ghoul. So to summarize those three wildcards we talked about when we were talking about whole networks, but it's pretty much just a way you can identify more than one object when you're running some kind of code, or when you're entering it in in like the level editor menu. And I'll explain that further later. The retreat command pretty much just has a ghoul go to a place you specified by providing it coordinates. So it'll just go back there and kind of like retreat back to that position. So it's just a way to kind of direct the ghoul on what to do. And then lastly, we'll talk about the threaten player command, which essentially is just a way to make the ghoul put the ghoul in hunt mode and just start chasing on the player pretty much right away. Although we've talked about similar ones before as well. But all right, let's start talking about wildcards first before we get into the ghoul. So wildcards not completely related to the ghoul, but we did talk about whole networks which use wildcards. So I'm just gonna give it a formal explanation now. So wildcards are pretty much just a way to identify multiple objects in your level. So for example, let's just click on this trigger area here. We have a trigger area, and if we hover right here over CC entities, and we made this callback, I think like episode 5, the first time we talked about scripts, and you see where it says right here, it's gonna be right here, but it says may use wildcards, and it has the asterisk. So what that means is that you can specify more than one entity. So this is the collide callback for these entities here. So you can actually, in this case, you can put a comma and separate each with a comma or a space. But you can also use wildcards. So let's say you wanted to specify instead of player, let's say you had grenades in the level, right? Grenades, and each grenade had a name, like grenade 1, grenade _1, grenade _2, _3. And let's say if you wanted to make it so that when any of those objects collide with this this trigger area, it triggers the area pretty much. It runs the function here. You could just put _*, and this will pretty much denote anything that has grenade _, anything after that will be will qualify for an object that goes in here. So pretty much, like I said, just a kind of way to identify multiple things. Alright, so to give you guys an example of using wildcards in the level editor, I did show one here, but I want to show like a more proper example of something we've done previously. So we've been talking about ghouls, and we talked about ghoul whole networks. And if we click on our ghoul, we have a section here called whole networks, which can tell the ghoul pretty much what network of holes to use. And we talked about how to set that up in the script, but we're going to talk about how you pretty much would do it here, just as a convenient way of talking about wildcards. So hold network, if you hover over it, it says the name of the group of holes the ghoul should move between, use wildcard, and then it puts the asterisk there. So we have a hole right here. We have a hole called whole hallway right there, and right underneath it we have another hole called whole hallway 2. So we have a 1 and a 2. So if we wanted to specify both these holes as part of his whole network, we could come over here, select him, and then we say, whole hallway _, and then instead of putting 1 or instead of putting 2, you're not going to separate it by commas either. You just put a star here. And what that pretty much will do is that he knows that his whole network can be either of these two areas right here. he can go in the holes in either of those two. So so you don't have to specify 1 and 2, and if you have like dozens on your map, you won't have to specify every single one. You just, you know, click on the ghoul, whole hallway underscore star. And that's part of the reason why when we first started talking about scripting and callbacks, I said you should try and keep the format here the way it is with, like, you know, ghoul underscore hallway underscore 1. Like when we talked about lights, for example, we did like light underscore 1 underscore 2 underscore 4. And this is exactly why you would want to do something like that. And yeah, so that's one example of doing it in the level order here. And now I want to talk about what we can do with it pretty much via our script. So a lot of functions do support the use of wildcards, and when we start talking about it, I'll show you guys an example of where you would see whether or not it supports it. And what we're gonna do pretty much, we have these baskets over here in the corner. They're just called Bedouin basket, wicker 1, 2, 3, and you know whatever else they are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pretty much mass remove all of them here. And then what I'll also do is I will mass turn off all these lights here as well. So in bulk, I will turn off I would remove all of these baskets and turn off all these lights. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn them all on right from default, because I think by default we had them set to not be lit. So we're going to light all these candles up. And remember, these lights, when we set them up, we connected them with a light here. So we're going to go ahead and just light them all up, which should light up those point lights. And this one is actually nothing. So, and we won't do this one. We'll just do this one here. I don't know if we call this one light 6, but we'll just do these here. I think these should be sufficient to see it work properly. So these point lights will be on once we load into the game, and then we're gonna like turn them all off in one shot without having to specify every single one. So with that, we can go over to our script now, and let's go ahead and show you guys how to do that. So let's go ahead and switch out to our cold light application here, and this is just some of the stuff we have here. So pretty much what we're going to do is, let me actually go back to level editor for a second here. In this collide area we have here, it's a trigger area. So just to recap for anybody that might have not watched the previous episodes, you go to the areas here, you search here, and you find trigger area, and you draw your area. So my area is this one right here. And then in the settings here of the trigger area, under collide callbacks, under the area tab, we have this trigger area when it collides with whatever we specify here, which is the player. When he collides with the player, we call a function in our script called onCollidePlayerTrigger1, and then that will do something for us. So if we go to our script now, using our cold light application here, we have, it should be near the top here, is one of the first ones we added, onCollidePlayerTrigger1. So that's our trigger area here, and pretty much what we have it doing at the moment is when all state equals 1, which pretty much just means when the player enters the area, we are enabling the player's running by running this command, and that's pretty much all we're doing here. Otherwise, nothing happens. But that's all we have here. So inside of here, we're gonna go ahead and make a new line here, and we're gonna put in our code that I'm gonna show you guys for wildcards. So the first thing we want to do is set those baskets to disappear. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna type in the same command we've been using in the past, entity underscore set active. So we've used this one before, and if you notice here on the right, usually it says it. You'll see it says as name of entity, wildcards star are supported. So it's telling you right off the bat, wildcards are supported. You can use a wildcard here, and we will, just as an example. But again, you could still, even if the method, even if it doesn't say it in the description of the function, and you're curious to know if it works, I would just test it out and see if it works. A majority of the functions do work with wildcards, but usually the ones that do work do say it. But if you're not sure, it wouldn't hurt to just put it in and see if it works. So don't be afraid to do that. So we're gonna go ahead and do this, and We're going to put our quotation marks here, and we're going to put in the name of our basket. I actually don't know the exact name, so let's open it up here, and let's select the basket we have in the corner here. So this is one, it's over here on the right. I know you guys are zoomed in, but we're just gonna, all we're doing is copying this name here, and we're gonna bring it over to our CodeLight application. We're gonna paste it in here, and we're gonna pretty much change this 3 with a star, same as I explained before. So by changing it to a star, anything after Bedouin basket wicker underscore will pretty much be in this list here and will be set inactive. So we're going to put comma false to make sure that they despawn. So false indicates that we're despawning them. So all those baskets that have the same name pretty much with a number afterwards will be despawned. So next, we're going to do another example with the lights. So we're going to do, we haven't talked about light functions yet, but we're going to just talk about how to set a brightness here. So you normally use the light helper functions here to do this. So we're going to do light underscore set brightness. And again, if you'll notice here on the right side, it'll say, you know, the brightness to set and the light name. And here next to the light name, you'll see can contain wildcards. So we got the same deal here. We can use wildcards in this scenario as well. So we're going to go ahead and hit enter here. And light name, we had our lights named light underscore 1, light underscore 2. So we're going to do light underscore, and then we're going to put star. Same as this one, anything after light underscore, we want to go ahead and change the brightness of, and then we'll do comma space, and then we'll do 0.0f, and that will go ahead and set the brightness to all the lights specified by our wildcard here to 0.0f. So these 2 lines alone, we actually did a whole bunch of things, disabled multiple objects all at once. So we're gonna go ahead and load up our game and check these out, make sure these are working properly. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so we're here in our level now. So as you can see, we have those lights on. So what I also want to kind of see if I could peek around and see those baskets before we cross that line. Yeah, you can see one right there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna walk through, collide with our area here, and what should happen, all these lights should be set to a brightness of 0 as per the wildcard that we specified, and these baskets should go ahead and despawn. Let's see if we can see them despawn here when we turn the corner. Okay, so we'll go ahead and go through, and boom, all those lights turned off, and those baskets went ahead and despawned. We did have it connected with these lights here. Since they were connected with these lights, the lights controlled whether those point lights were on or off. These won't turn on just by turning those off. So yeah, you would just have to change the state of these lights as well as a wild card as well. Yeah, that was just for the actual point lights that we put there. So let's go ahead and head back to our script. Alright, so we're back in the level editor. So that worked. Again, we would have to manually set these lights state to change here, the ones here, but all we did was turn off to set these point lights brightness to 0. So brightness is here. So all we did is through the code, we just set those to 0. So that's pretty much just a couple of examples of using wildcards. We will talk more about lighting in future episodes. I want to do just an episode on lighting, controlling lighting via script. In our original episode, we just avoided the script pretty much. So now let's talk about the next 2 parts. The next part is actually going to be about ghouls. And what we're going to do is we're going to have this ghoul retreat to a specified area that we have. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over here and we're going to put an area down. We're going to put an area down here. So we're going to do we're going to do areas here, and we're going to go down, and I'm going to do AI. We're going to do AI retreat, I believe it's called. Here we are, AI retreat. So we'll click on that, and what we'll do is we'll just put it down. We'll just put it down here. We'll put the area down here, and we have our retreat area here. And let's go ahead and give it a name. So we're gonna just say retreat area 1, and there it is. So we have retreat area 1. what we'll do is we'll click on our Ghoul here, and we'll go under Ghoul, and we'll retreat under retreat areas. Note here we can also use a wildcard, but in this case we're not going to be using a wildcard. We're just going to put in the name of this retreat area there. So I'm going to copy this, and we're just pretty much telling the Ghoul, like, this is in a retreat area of yours. You can retreat here whenever you want. So whenever the Ghoul enters a state where he needs to retreat, he will retreat there. Well, we will actually just be commanding him to go to this point, so we don't necessarily need to have this retreat area here, but we're just gonna do a command to this point. So alright, so if you didn't see the last episode, or not the last episode, the episode 10 on timers, what we've been doing for the last few episodes, we've been talking about trigger areas, and we've been talking about ghouls. And what we did is we had a collide area down here. So we, just like I explained in the beginning of the video, we put down a trigger area here, and we have a collide with the player. And when the player collides with this collide area, this trigger area, we call on collide player trigger bottom stairs. And if we go to our script here, we have that command right here, on collide player trigger bottom stairs. So what we do is when the player collides with this area here, we if all state equals 1, which means he just entered the area, the trigger area, we go ahead and set a timer, and in 10 seconds we call the timer function here, which is this one right here. And then what we do is we go ahead and spawn in our Ghoul. We set his smelling inactive so that we can we don't have to worry about him sniffing us out when we're trying to like test. And then in the last episode specifically, or I think the episode before that, we talked about the command where we send them to the hole. We will actually disable this one because we don't want that for today's episode to test with. We will leave the callbacks. They're not gonna hurt. They're just printing messages, so we'll just leave that. Of course, none of this is necessary here. And we'll just go to a new line right here. And now let's talk about the functions that we're going to be using today. So we're going to scroll down here, bring this to the top pretty much. And what we're going to go ahead and do now is we're going to talk about the retreat, the command retreat. So we're going to say Ghoul command and then retreat. So you'll see Ghoul command retreat execute. So it has the parameters we're going to be putting in here. So let's go ahead and hit enter. Now we're going to be putting in a vector here to specify an area. So let's go ahead and hit enter here. So let's go ahead and put the name of our Ghoul. So it's going to be Ghoul hallway. And we're going to do comma space, and then this is whether you want to force him into the state or you want him to change states naturally whenever he gets the best chance to do it. We're gonna leave this as false. Again, if you see equals here, pretty much means that it has a default value. So by default, for example, force is set to false. By default, automatic retreat is true, and pretty much it just goes down the list like this. This is all the defaults. So these aren't actually required, but just to increase the, to specify it further, we can specify it here. So what we're gonna do, automatic retreat pretty much means that he's gonna retreat automatically. So he's gonna choose an ideal area to retreat to. So we're actually gonna specify specifically where we want him to go. So for instance, it's false. You can feel free to set that to true if it applies to your custom story. And for C vector 3F, if this is set to false, then we have to specify the coordinates where we want them to go. A vector 3F is just pretty much the 3D coordinates of a position you want the Ghoul to go to. So what we're gonna actually do is we're gonna use that position of that retreat area just to specify him to go there. So we're gonna do map dot, and we're gonna have to actually, let's go ahead and get rid of this here. We're gonna say map underscore get entity, and we'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll put the name of the retreat area. So we called it, let's actually get it from the level just so I don't make a typo here. And we'll go ahead and click here. We'll say it was retreat area 1. So let's go ahead and go back to our code here and put that in. Let me actually zoom you guys in as well. we'll go ahead and paste that in there, and then we'll do dot get position. So we'll get the position of this retreat area. And then after that we'll do comma, we'll do comma space, and then for the last variable here is actually the callback that we want to use. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna say quotation mark on retreat completed underscore, just kind of following the format. You know, it's a retreat, so on retreat completed, we'll put the name of our ghoul here. We'll say ghoul hallway, and then we'll go ahead and close out the whole function here by putting the semicolon at the end. And now for the syntax of the callback. So what we're saying is when all this, when we're going to go ahead and make them retreat back to that place, and then what we're doing is we're pretty much saying, okay, when you finish retreating, do this callback here, run this function. So this is the function we're going to call here. And the syntax for that is pretty much, it's going to be pretty similar to this one right here actually. It's going to be void space, we'll copy this and we'll paste it here, and we'll do parentheses, curly brace, and then inside here we're actually going to put the same thing that's in here, we use const, and then we're going to do t string, and then we're going to do and in as entity. And then here, all we're gonna do here is just print the message. But if you needed to run some code after he retreats, for you know, whatever you need to do in your level, you could put whatever that is here. I'm just gonna put a message that says ghoul retreat successful, and we'll go ahead and hit save there. So we'll just get a debug message in our debug mode that says ghoul retreat successful. So now that we have that printing out, we can actually go ahead and test this in our level. So let's go ahead and load up our game and check it out, see if it's working. All right, so here we are back in our level again. So we're gonna go ahead and head down to the bottom of the stairs. So let's do that. When we get there, our timer should run. So right here we triggered it, so our timer should be running in about 10 seconds. So let's head back, let's watch him walk to his little area here. So let's kind of peek around the corner. So he should spawn and he should head right to his little spot here. And there he is, so he goes to his little spot there. So now that he's made it to his spot, you can pretty much do whatever you want to do from there. So this would be good pretty much for when you to command them to go wherever you want him to go. So if he just lost the player and he goes into like an idle state, you can run the idle command and have him like retreat back to his little area here, and just pretty much, you know, take it from there, and do whatever you need him to do in that area that you tell him to go back to. Yeah, with that, let's go ahead and go back to our script now, and let's talk about the last command. All right, so that worked well. So let's go ahead and we'll comment this out now. So we're putting 2 slashes in front of it just to tell it not to run this code here. And we're gonna go ahead and go to a new line here. Now this is the last function we're gonna be talking about here, and it's gonna be the threaten player command. And all this will pretty much do is set the ghoul into a hunting state, pretty much revealing the position of the player, and pretty much just have the ghoul charge right at the player. So what we're going to do is we're going to type in ghoul underscore command threaten player. So you'll see that there'll be 2 here. You actually set an aggressiveness for this command to work. Actually, let me, it doesn't look like it's on screen, so let me like scroll down here so you guys can see it. So we'll say ghoul command threaten player. So that lets you see all the values there. So we have 2 here. You do have to specify an aggressiveness level, and if you need to change it after the fact, you can run this command here. We'll pop it in here in a moment, but let's talk about the main one here. So it's going to be the command threaten player execute. So as you can see here, it needs the name of the ghoul. We need a level of aggressiveness. We need the gestures that you want to use. Or if you want to use gestures, you can set it so that the ghoul slows down. And let's go ahead and answer here and just start talking about them as we type them up. So we'll go ahead and put the first value here. So it's going to be ghoul hallway. We'll comma space. Aggro level, let's just set it straight to 7, which is the highest. And I believe what the aggro level does, I haven't tested all the aggro levels, but it seems like aggro level pretty much just determines like how quickly the ghoul will move towards the player and stuff. So we're just gonna set it to 7 and have it be the fastest. Threaten gestures, should he show his threaten gestures? So when he when he's nearby, should he like gesture? Or we're gonna set this to, we'll leave it as true. That's the default as well, but we'll leave it as true. Adjust speed. So adjust speed, all this will do, it will slow down the ghoul when he gets near the player. By default, it's set to full, so he'll just charge like top speed at the player. But if you want him to slow down when he starts getting near the player, you can do that. So pretty much just like a deceleration once he gets near the player. So we're gonna set this to false. And if you had set this to true, you do have to specify at what distance you want to start decelerating. So if you wanted him to start decelerating within 5 distance units of the player, you would specify 5 here, or it'd be min to max, so the minimum distance to the maximum distance where he should do it. So since we set this to false, it doesn't really matter. We're just gonna set this to -1, and same for this one, we're gonna set this to -1. But if you did specify adjust speed to be true, you might want to change these. And then this one is whether or not we should force the state change. We're gonna hit false on this one. We don't wanna force the state change. We'll just let him do it naturally. I won't be doing a completed callback on this one because this is pretty much the same as like the hunt, and should run pretty much when he goes idle. So you could just use the let's close this out here with a semicolon. You could just use the ghoul set callback to idle here to call back anything when he goes idle. But with that, that's pretty much the whole threat command there. And this aggro level, if you wanted to change it after the fact, you can do ghoul, and then you do command threaten player, and you just do set aggressiveness, and then here you just put in ghoul hallway, and then the aggro level that you want to change. So if we want to change it after the fact, we just set that to 3, and now he has an aggro level of 3. So that goes hand in hand with this command. Again, this command's pretty much used, this function is pretty much used to reveal the player, the player's position straight to the ghoul, and then set the ghoul to be in hunt mode, so then he'll go after the player right away. So a lot of these can be used hand in hand with each other, and we did talk about ghoul modes and how to pretty much do hunt on that too. So you can take your pick of how you want to use it. I think I prefer ghoul modes. They're just a lot simpler in changing, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, you might want to watch the previous episodes when we talked about the last few things. But with this, we can go ahead and run our game and check it out. So again, this will execute after our timer is done. So let's go ahead and execute our game and check it out. Alright, so here we are in our level again. So let's go ahead and run straight downstairs and trigger that area. So we have it triggered now. So we should head back, and we're just gonna stand right in front of the ghoul here, and we're just gonna kind of have him charge right at us. Since we have him to 7, he's gonna come in extremely fast and just roll us pretty much through the wall is what he did. And yeah, and that's the threaten gesture right there, and then he's out to hunting again. So that's pretty much it for that command. So there's not really much to that one right there. That pretty much wraps up ghouls. I know it was pretty much a small episode today, and I kind of mixed it with wildcards, but wildcards was a very small topic, and I kind of wanted just to mix it with the remainder remaining commands we had left for the ghoul. So with that wraps up the final part of the ghoul related series. I might have a part in the future, like a part 8 or part 9 or something, if I feel there's something else we have to talk about. I know I showed you guys a lot of just how to use these commands to your liking, kind of use them however you, just showed you how the core usage of all these functions and how you want to use them. In future episodes, we might be applying some of these to other things we're going to be talking about. So it's keep stay tuned for the other future episodes that are coming. If there's anything you feel I might have missed with ghouls, do let me know in the comments what you might want to see in a future episode. For now, we're gonna wrap it up with ghouls here, and we'll start talking about other topics now. We've been on ghouls for quite a number of episodes, so I'm looking forward to moving forward to something else. I don't really have the next episode planned at the moment, so I don't know what we're gonna be talking about next episode just yet. But I'm thinking, somewhere along maybe lighting, maybe fear, maybe intractable objects and stuff. So I haven't decided yet. I'll look at our list of things that we need to get to, and we'll decide from there. And I'll decide from there. Aside from that, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Again, leave comments letting me know what you guys think so far, how we're doing, and if you guys like the pace. So have a good day, guys. Bye.